welcome to the Warrior Within Docuseries. I'm your host, Jaime Bennett. This is part 1. We are going to be taken on the journeys of numerous amazing human beings. We're all warriors within. We are one tribe. We are all part of one tribe, and this is going to be their stories of how they became warriors within. As always, viewer discretion is strongly advised, and if you're listening to this on whatever format that you are listening to this on, like whether it be your tablet or computer, listener discretion is strongly advised because this show does contain sensitive topic matter, and there you go. You have viewer and listener discretion is advised. My first guest in this series is an amazing human being by the name of Carmen Melton Bennett. So without further ado, let me introduce you all to her.
Hello.
Thank you so much for being here. I appreciate it.
Well, thank you so much for giving me a platform. I appreciate it.
So I have never really talked to you before this show, and you reached out to me, and I'm like, yes, for sure. I would love to have you as a part of the docuseries because, I want people from all walks of life to be a part of this series. And like I've said before on my show, The Warrior Within, I said that I started this show to kind of help people and to help myself with my journey in life because I've been through a lot. And so I have no idea what your story is, but I really appreciate you willing to tell it. It takes a lot of bravery to tell, our stories, and you're going to help out a lot of people by telling your story today.
Absolutely. And like a lot of people, there's multiple stories. I just turned 50 this week, so I have 50.
You look amazing. Happy belated birthday, by the way.
Oh, I have reached the next point, But, you're welcome to ask questions, but I'll give you a little synopsis, okay? I am a therapist by trade. I have been a therapist for 11 years. I work with teenagers, at-risk teenagers who are referred to a residential treatment program through the juvenile courts. So I work with a lot of kids who have dealt with significant trauma and all kinds of different issues. So I work with warriors, okay? But the journey has been a very long and torrid one for me. There's many things that we could talk about today. But one story I would like to just kind of jump in at is one question that people have when they find out you're a therapist is, why did you become a therapist?
Exactly.
Where does that come from? And a lot of people have kind of, a broad answer to that. But I can tell you exactly why I became a therapist. I can point back to specific things that have happened that led me down this road. And then we'll get into kind of the creative side and the other side of my life, which is really fun. Okay. But I did have a traumatic loss when I was in the 5th grade. A close friend of mine was killed in a boating accident. Okay. My very best friend at the time was also in the accident, but was not killed. So it was a significant event on multiple levels. But how it brought me to therapy is I was 11. When you're 5 years old and you lose someone close to you, you think they go to some kind of castle in the sky, or it's something that's almost magical, but you don't really understand death. When you're an adult, you understand death a little bit more. You understand the finality of death. As you get older, you lose more people, and death becomes not necessarily easier, but you do understand it on a very different level the older you get. Okay. When you are 10 and 11 years old, you understand that death is permanent, but you have no concept at all of how to process that grief. So it was a traumatic loss for me. My parents did the best that they thought they could at the time, But even though they were educated, they kept me home from the funeral. So I never really got the closure that I needed back then. And I had a lot of guilt related to this situation for years. Because when you're 10 and 11 years old, you think that everything that happens in the world is somehow related to something you have done.
Yeah.
And I felt very guilty for this. I had no reason to be, but my 11-year-old mind distorted this into guilt and depression and questioning. So somewhere around the age of 13 or 14, I knew that when I got older, I was going to be a therapist and I was going to help kids deal with grief. And that's exactly what has happened. It was not a linear process of, oh, I had this profound discovery about myself and I'm going to be a therapist, and I became a therapist right after high school. It did not happen that way at all. It was not a smooth, oh, well, there we are. But I am there, and that is what I do. And I've done it for over a decade. So it was a very strange, straight circle, I guess.
Yeah.
So that is what brought me to the mental health side.
Well, I mean, I appreciate that. We need people like you in the world. And like, it's sad that, you know, that you had to experience that in your life. But, you know, it's kind of like taking something that's traumatic and turning something beautiful out of it. Like, you're helping other kids. Like, I lost my son when he was a month and 9 days old, and his brothers were not very old at the time, and they were still at that viewpoint of, you know, kids are invincible, like, you know, we can conquer the world and nothing bad's gonna ever happen. And they had to grow up fast when they lost their little brother. So I can totally understand that viewpoint, and that's a big reason why I started this show, is because I went through that trauma of losing a child, and I've been through other traumas throughout my lifetime. And I'm like, how can I use my communications degree for something beautiful and positive that's going to help other people? So I really respect and appreciate you for taking that traumatic experience and turning it into something beautiful and helpful.
Right. Well, I definitely appreciate that. So are you ready for chapter 2?
Yes, go for it.
Okay, let's go for chapter 2. Remember, I said it was not a straight line. Okay. It was not a straight line.
It's okay. I'm an artist. I understand.
I'm 50, and if I've been doing this for 11 years, that means I didn't start doing this until I was 39. So there was a whole lot of life between that and 39. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Chapter 2. I have like multiple volumes here, but okay, chapter 2. So I go to college, get my degree, get married, which most Southern girls do or did back in the day. You know, if you go to college, you're expected to be engaged before you graduate. That's how we were raised back in the day. Fortunately, that has changed. Thank goodness. But I got married and got pregnant almost immediately. And love her to get death. That's my darling Autumn. She lives in New York. If you follow me on Facebook, you probably hear about her ad nauseum. That's okay. Deal with it. So had my little Autumn. She was a preemie. That's what we always called her, my little Autumn. Then a couple years later, I had my second child, Alex. Alex totally completed the family. But my body started falling apart. Okay. I started having very strange, I wouldn't say unexplainable, but just weird symptoms. Okay. So I started going to the doctor, and what do doctors tell young women with 2 children in graduate school? It's stress, darling. You're just trying to do too much. Well, in time, that stress turned into some rather significant symptoms that could not be explained away by stress.
Yeah.
Long, torrid story short, I actually had a progressive neurological disease that was very, at the time, considered to be very rare. We now know it's not as rare as they thought. It was just not diagnosed correctly. Dysautonomia is the term. I don't do anything simple, ever. Okay. Dysautonomia can be debilitating, but it's typically not fatal. Okay. And I'm not a doctor. Don't pretend to be one. Don't send ugly messages to Jamie here. I'm just telling you the deal. However, Carmen goes big or goes home, right? I had a very, what they call atypical version of this. That's why my music company, my publishing company, is Atypical Music, because my doctors have always called me atypical.
Well,
Carmen,
there you go.
There you go. So anyway, there was a very long period of time that, not to be morbid, but they did not think I was going to see 25, 30. Needless to say, I just celebrated my 50th birthday, so everything is much better. But back in the day, it was a very terrifying time. There was a period of 18 months where I was hooked up to an IV for about 18 hours a day for hydration therapy at home. At home. They would ship me my little IV stuff, and I was hooked up to a tube for a year and a half with 2 children. Yes.
Oh my gosh.
Well, again, I don't do anything simple. During that, I caught E. coli.
Goodness gracious.
I was the first confirmed case in Tallahassee when they had the outbreak from spinach years ago. And everyone, Carmen, did you eat spinach? No, I was going to put it on a t-shirt. I did not eat spinach. That is not what happened. So the bad thing about that, not that E. coli was not bad enough, but at the time I had a port in my chest. Okay. A port is where, for those not aware, and I hope most people are not aware, because I hope you don't have to know what a port is. But it's a little device they put in your chest so that every time you need an IV, they don't have to stick you. Okay. They can just put the little connector there in your chest. Okay. And as many IVs as I was having at the time, and it was just easier. Unfortunately, it became infected through the E. coli, and they had to remove it. So the one thing that I had kind of gotten relief from, I lost. Well, I also had a pacemaker. They put the pacemaker in probably about, 6 months, maybe 8 months before all this happened. No, I got the pacemaker the day before New Year's Eve. So I had it for 10 months. My bad. So I had a pacemaker over here. I had a port over here. My kids showed me off like I was Robo-Mom, But the E. coli caused me to lose the port. Okay. So I lost a ton of weight, sick as a dog. They didn't think I was going to make it, but miraculously, 5 days after being in the hospital, I was able to return home. I was not well by any means, but I was very, very sick. And I was very, very sick for a very long time. Okay. Telling you this because during that time, what do you do when you're sick? You look for coping skills. You look for coping. This is when songwriting became a part of my life. What do you do when you're hooked up to a tube for 18 hours? You play on the computer. What else can you do? Can't go outside and run a marathon. Okay. So at that time, the internet was still kind of new. I'm showing my age here, and social media had just kind of started kicking off. So I started making some contacts with people all over the world. And I started writing. And I started writing every day. So I became bit by this songwriting bug. Even though I was ill, we started making trips to Nashville. And I started going up there as we could, to network and go to workshops. And I just became obsessed with writing. It was such a coping skill for me back then. It still is a coping skill, but it literally saved my life. Okay. So, saving a lot of detail. Okay. I did get much better. Very much better. I left an unhealthy situation, and we'll just leave it like that.
That's fine.
And I moved back home with my children in tow, and we moved in with my parents for the next 5 years. During that time, I began to really heal. I could work for the first time in over 10 years.
Wow.
And I got my first professional job running a group home for special needs adults. And I did that for about 14 months when I got the call of a place that I had interviewed at to be a therapist, had an opening. So I go over there and I take that job as a therapist. And I'm like, Lord, they are going to eat me on toast because it's juveniles.
No, no.
I just wanted to be a therapist. So I'm like, okay, I'll take it. And then, I can always get a job somewhere else. And that was 11 years ago.
Oh, wow. It's amazing how things work out. It's amazing.
Yes. So I healed in many, many ways. There are still things that I do have to deal with on a daily basis. I know my body very well. I know what my body can do, what my body cannot do, what helps when I have certain symptoms. Any doctor who knew me during my worst would not believe that we were having this conversation today, because there is absolutely no scientific reason for you and I to be talking today.
I'm thankful that we are able to.
There you go. There you go. So that was, of course, a huge, huge, huge blessing, but it gets 3 or 4. I think I kind of combined 2 chapters, but that's okay. You're going to like this. You're going to like this because it gets really good now. It's about to get really good.
Really good.
So I've been a therapist for 11 years. So let's go to 10 years ago when I was kind of green in the whole therapy thing, coming out of a very not good situation, followed by another situation that wasn't good either. Let's just go with that. I decided that I was going to give online dating a shot. Why the hell not?
Boy.
Why the hell not, right? I told myself I was going to be like Blanche Devereaux. I was just going to date everybody and everything. I love the Golden Girls, if you know the reference. Okay. Just, go up there and enjoy life. I was feeling better. I was working, and I had to get out of the house because I was living with my parents at the time. So, I got this weird message from some guy who was sick at the time and was supposed to go to Mobile for Mardi Gras to go to a ball and escort his daughter, but he stayed home that weekend. So he texted me and we kind of talked and decided that, okay, we would meet at a Mexican restaurant the next week. And we met at the Mexican restaurant on March 5th, 2014, got married May 11th, 2016, and we've been together ever since.
Well, there you go. The rest is history.
So, Enfield 11-13 and Word Girl 13 got married. It gets better. It gets better. You're going to love this. Ready? Okay. So, me being Miss Therapist, okay. My husband is absolutely a saint. When I tell you that Philip is a saint. Now, Philip is a warrior, too. He could be on your show. He's got stories, too. We all do, okay? But he got a handful when he went to that Mexican restaurant. He just did not know what he was signing up for. So, okay. So, Philip and I have been together. We've raised 5 children between us, between the ages of, the oldest is, I think she's turning 31. I have a 25-year-old, 23-year-old, and then we had the 2 at home who are 19 and 15. So, but at the time they were 10 years younger than that. So imagine that. Okay. So it was like the Brady Bunch. But a couple of years ago, Philip and I got talking about, dreams, because he's always been so supportive of me as a songwriter. I go out all the time as a publisher. I'm always pitching music. I'm always signing new artists, looking for new material. It was hopping when he came into the picture. So his dream was to do comedy. And he had tried it one time. And as he says, he took too much liquid courage and it did not go well for him. It was a disaster. So he never did it again. One of my buddies, one of my musician buddies, started an open mic comedy thing here in town. And I said, Philip, let's go do it. I'd never done comedy in my life. He was like, I said, come on, I'll do it. Let's just go. So we go, and that was July of 2022. And this week, on my 50th birthday, we had our 50th comedy show.
Oh, wow, that's amazing.
So we did comedy. So isn't that crazy? Life is a
That is
wild
wonderful. Oh, yeah. You never know what to expect. I mean, I'm 43 and I tell my husband, I said, it's not over yet. I can still accomplish my dreams and goals in life. It could still
and
happen.
your dreams change. And dreams
Oh,
change.
yeah.
If you would have told me when I was 25 years old that I was going to be doing stand-up comic or stand-up comedy with my new husband, what the heck? But we have a blast. We have done comedy, of course, around here, but we've also done comedy in Brooklyn, New York, and New Orleans.
Oh,
We have a lot of fun together.
that's
So
wonderful.
here's my plug for those watching. Look us up on Facebook, CNP Comedy.
Yeah, and I'll try to put the links to whatever you want me to put the links to down below in the description. For anyone who's watching this, look in the description.
There's going to be like 6 links by the time we get done. But that essentially is most of the high points, okay, of where I went from some of the most horrific, dark places, and some of them we didn't even get into, to such a place of joy. Such a place of joy. You know, we have a good time. That's my cat scratching the door. She's going ballistic.
That's okay. I have cats too. I understand that.
Agreed. So, yeah. So, do you have any questions, Jamie?
Oh wow! Like
you're on the hot seat.
I think you've answered a lot of the questions that I would have asked, but you've had an amazing journey so far, and you know you're still young. I mean, there's a whole bunch of life to live yet.
There is.
I guess one of the questions that I would ask is, what has been your most profound moment, if you can even answer that question? I know that is a loaded question. In life so far.
My most profound moment, and I'm not trying to get too out there, okay?
Yeah.
But I can tell you 100% what my most profound moment is. I had to make the decision whether or not I was going to live or die.
Yep.
I literally had to, I was in a situation which I won't get into, but out of respect for all belief systems. But I can tell you, when I was in the hospital, I was giving a choice. And I said, I want to live.
Yeah.
I'm serious. And I did. And that was the profound moment. I made the decision. Now, I'm not saying I am why I live, because obviously that decision is not something we have the capability of determining. But mentally, I put it wherever you want to identify that it to be, universe, God, whatever you call it. I want to live. Because I was sick. Let me tell you, the other would have been a reasonable choice for anyone at that point, as sick as I was. So I said, no, I want to live. And the response was, okay. And then things started changing on such a dramatic level that night that I was able to leave the hospital within 48 hours, which is absolutely insane. Absolutely insane, where I was at that moment to where I was 2 days later. So that is the most profound moment of my life.
Yeah. I mean, everybody has like different profound moments in their lives. Like I can kind of relate to that moment, because when I had my son Ronan, I had severe preeclampsia, and it was getting to the point where my liver was being attacked and it was shutting down. And like, if we wouldn't have had the C-section done and all that, like I wouldn't be here right now. So, you know, I've had to make hard life decisions such as that. We had to make the decision to take him off of life support. So I totally understand. being put in a situation like that. I think the most profound point in my life is when I became Ronan's mom and I had to make those decisions. I can talk about him. I've talked about him in the past on my show. It's not a problem for me to talk about him as a person, but when we dive into the details of being his mom, that's when I lose it. That's when I break down, and it becomes hard to talk about. So I totally understand being put in a position such as that.
Mm-hmm.
So you had mentioned that like writing music saved your life. I write music and poetry myself, and when I was in college, I had a traumatic experience with an ex-boyfriend, and I'm not going to go into it again because I've talked about it on my show before, but he was abusive, and we'll just leave it at that. And poetry, as well as doing, my radio show at the time and playing guitar, like all of that art, music, it all saved my life. Like it got me out of a very, very dark situation of being depressed, and it made me stronger. I became more outspoken, and I started standing up for my rights and standing up for what I believe in. And I still do that today. Like I always tell people, I'm not everyone's cup of tea or
That's
drink
okay.
of choice. But I am who I am, and I'm going to speak my mind, and not everybody has to like it. And I think that that's what makes us warriors within, is how we handle these situations and how we can turn them into something beautiful and to other people. So like I said before, I really appreciate you telling your life journey on this show, because it will help a lot of people. They'll realize that they are not alone.
Right. And you bring up some good points. Okay. I use what we call expressive therapy at work a lot with my kids. Now, understand when I say my kids, these are teenagers who all have received some kind of legal charge, most of them many legal charges. So by the time they get to us, they have been through the ringer. They are the quote bad kids. Often they try to present this very tough street kind of demeanor, but there is nothing like seeing one of those 16 or 17-year-old boys color. Miss Carmen, this is stupid. Okay. 20 minutes later, hey, get a purple. You know? Hey, this is kind of cool. This is kind of cool. This is kind of cool. Can we do this again? This is us. I actually have a paint station in my office. So when you come into my paint section set up, I don't say a word about it. I just leave it over there. And the kids are like, can we paint? I'm like, absolutely. So kids who have been very jaded in their lives, who feel like they have to grow up when they're 10, 11, 12 years old, who never got to be a kid. It is beautiful to see what art does. And you really want to have fun? Let me take in some instruments. Let me take my guitar in, or the drums. They go nuts over the drums. Oh my gosh. And at first, there's that little bit of resistance. Oh, I can't play this. This is, I can't do this. I'm like, well, just try, just see what happens, And then by the end of our group, everyone is doing something and they're enjoying it. And it's peace. It matters. It matters so much, and we all have our heels, right? And one of the heels that I will die on is the importance of any kind of creative outlet for mental health, period. Adults, children, anybody. It is massively huge. Mental health work has saved me in dealing with my music side, because there are some things in music that you need a strong backbone and a strong mental health with. Music has saved me to be a therapist. So they totally respond to each other. Okay. So that is usually one of the things that I recommend to anyone who is trying to heal. And I hope you don't mind me going here as we're talking about being warriors, how to manage being a warrior, and how
Oh no,
to,
you're fine.
to manage some of this stuff, because it's trauma. That's what it is. You are a
Yeah.
survivor because you have survived trauma. And trauma comes in lots of different forms, and it's not the one size fit all thing. Two
Yeah.
people in the exact same car accident and have two completely different reactions to it, and then someone may have multiple traumas or compounded trauma. But to me, any kind of creative outlet for anyone, and with my husband is comedy, okay? Um, we're all drawn to it. You can tell those people who have been through things are drawn to the arts, and there's a reason for it. There is a reason. It's because it is healing. The things that we
Mhm.
cannot say out loud, the things that we cannot verbalize, we can draw, we can sing, we can write a poem about, we can dance. And all those, or even act, all those are ways of getting that stuff out. If we don't get it out, what happens? It festers inside. And what happens when you
Yeah.
have it inside? It starts poisoning you from the inside. So it's
Exactly.
absolutely critical to have an outlet. It may be gardening. To me, gardening and cooking are still in that classification of creative arts.
Yes,
It's
most
what
certainly.
photography, whatever, and in some ways, sports can be a creative outlet. So whatever it is, what is your thing? And if you don't know what your thing is, and this is what I recommend to the kids at school or at work, a lot of times they haven't been exposed. They just haven't had opportunities to do some of these creative outlets. So I'm like, well, just give it a shot. Just give it a shot. Let's make it a goal to come up with 10 different coping skills in the next 2 months. Just try it. You may find out that you're actually pretty good at, I don't know, painting or, sculpture or something. There may be something that you find out that you can do that you had no clue that you had that talent because you had never been given an opportunity to try it. So for all the warriors watching, that's a little bit of free therapy for you, okay? That importance of getting it out. Because if you don't, it's going to come out in a negative way. It's either going to come out through anger or self anger, which is depression. And then you're going to
Mhm.
start getting sick. You're going to start having some physical symptoms. Ask me how I know.
Yeah. Yep. I've been there. When I went through what I went through in college, if I would not have turned to art and
Exactly.
music and
Right.
all that, I would have gotten sick. I was a very, very angry person when I came home from college, and I needed a moment. I needed to take a moment to calm down and realize, okay, it's not fair to the people that I'm venting toward because they didn't do it. It's not their
Right.
fault.
Right.
How can I calm down from this horrible situation?
Mm-hmm.
What can I do
Mm-hmm.
to make, everyone around me not have to deal with
Right.
my venting?
Right.
So, I turned to poetry and
Right.
artwork. So yes, it is very, very massive
Mm-hmm.
and healing. It is a massive tool in healing, that's for sure.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Now, you mentioned that you deal with music, and you have I think you've mentioned, you've been to Nashville and you've done that sort of thing. I guess I can ask you, like, what advice would you give someone who's too afraid to venture into their dreams, too afraid to take that first step?
Right. 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 Whew. Let me give you a little bit of background about the music for you, Jamie, or anybody who may not be familiar with who I am. Okay. I've written well over 400 songs, probably 500. I stopped counting. Okay. I couldn't tell. Out of those, I've had about 35 recorded by different people. Okay.
Oh,
I write for other people. I am not a performing artist. Don't care to be a performing artist. That is not my thing. I like to write. I like to write large quantities of material. And I did. It was a very healing thing for me. The year after my divorce, I wrote 150 songs that year alone.
oh
I
wow.
connect almost monthly. Okay. So I've been professionally songwriting for about 18 years. I have been a publisher. I always have to stop and think. I think I started my publishing company in 2007. So oh my goodness, it's our anniversary. So we're at 17 years. Oh my gosh.
That's amazing.
Holy crap. Really? Wow. Okay. We're almost on our 20-year for songwriting. That'll be next year, I believe. Good gosh almighty. But anyway, the question was, what advice do I give someone who may be afraid to pursue that? We do ourselves a lot of disservice when we think that something is only valid if it is commercial and it pays.
Yeah.
Okay. Songwriting is one of the most difficult professions and is getting harder by the day because of streaming. You make so little money in songwriting. I've already made way more money in comedy this year than I made in music. I don't even tell anybody that. I mean, it's sad.
Wow.
I know. I could do a whole 3-hour conversation about how music has just gone in the toilet as far as being able to make a living at it and how things have changed. So my question would be, what is the fear? What is it that you're afraid of? Are you afraid of being judged? Are you afraid of sucking? Are you afraid of other people mocking you? Are you afraid of not being able to financially support yourself through this craft? What is the fear? That would be the question I would ask, because that would tailor my answer.
Yeah.
You're afraid to suck. One of the most important skills is to embrace the suck.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm serious. If you've ever played a musical instrument, especially if you were in high school band and you played a brass instrument, I wonder what it sounded like those first couple weeks when you were in band. It sounded like something dying, didn't it? It's hard to pick that instrument up and continue to play it when it sounds like something's dying.
Yeah.
That is one of the most difficult things when you're learning a new skill, is to get through the suck. Okay? Allow yourself to suck. Embrace the suck. It's okay. Because you know what? Everybody sucks. When you write a song, you're going to suck for the first 100 songs, darling. And I love you. I know your mama loves that song. I know she does. It makes her cry. Your first 100 songs are going to be rough, sweetie, because you're learning a skill. You're not just learning an art, you're learning a skill. And yes, there is a technique to it.
Yeah.
Not just free writing if you're wanting to do it commercially.
Yeah.
If you are not wanting to do it commercially, okay, then you have to just recognize that this is an outlet. You're doing it for the pure joy of creating something that did not exist an hour ago, or however long it took you to do whatever this wonderful piece of creativity is. So you can choose to share it, or you can choose to not share it. Guess what? That's your decision. If this is not your livelihood, you're the boss. What you do with that creative outlet is up to you. If you want to go and do pottery, paint it 500 colors and put every piece of stickers and glitter you want and then put in your closet, that is your choice. We put too many rules on ourselves when it's something that does not matter as far as commerciality. If it's commercial, well, that's a whole different talk, okay? We're talking about trying to get songs pitched for commercial recordings. Yes, there's things you have to do. There's a process, and it sucks. And I'm saying that as a publisher that's done it for 17 years now.
Yeah.
So how do you get past that? First,
Yeah.
do it. Be like Nike. Just do it.
Just do it.
Just do it. If you can't think of what to write, write. Get you a piece of notebook paper. I do not know what to write. This is so weird. I don't know what to write. This is creepy. My husband's looking at me like I'm drunk. I don't know. And pretty soon, guess what? You're going to start writing something that kind of makes sense. And you're like, oh, I actually like that. And then, oh, wait a minute. That reminds me of something. What's the most creative way I can say what this reminds me of? Oh, that's actually pretty good. And then as you get a little braver, start sharing it. Go to some open mics. Go to some open mic poetry events or art shows. I mean, there's places all over. There's art everywhere. And don't buy that crowd that if you're not living in a major city, that there's not things. I live in Enterprise, Alabama, and I get songs recorded all over the world. I do not live in Nashville. I do not live in Atlanta. I don't jet set back and forth to New York except to see my daughter, which I do that. If you want it to happen, especially with the internet, there is a way to make it happen.
Exactly.
So if there was a blessing to come out of COVID, one thing that I didn't mention about when I first started songwriting, I did everything online. Way back. We're talking 15 years ago. So when everybody freaked out, oh, we got to do everything online now with this songwriting. I'm like, I've been doing it for 15 years. It's okay.
Take a deep breath. It'll be all right.
You and I are talking. You're in Georgia right now. I'm in Alabama. You
Exactly.
could be on the moon. It's okay.
Yeah.
We have technology. Embrace. And the other side of that is with technology, there's all kinds of groups to meet other people who are in the same boat.
Exactly.
I met you through some kind of peripheral group that originated. And here's a story for you. I love this tale of how you and I probably met, because it probably way back linked to, hang on, what was it called back then? Crap. Kim Ware's thing that she started.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, the kimono in my house. I met Kim. Okay, this is crazy. I had gone to Atlanta for a therapist workshop. Okay, a week, kid free. Woohoo! Mama's loose on town. And I was like, well, heck, I just want to go see some songwriters. So I looked up, and it was a weird night, like a Wednesday, where they should not have really had a whole lot going on. And it was a old gals something music review or something like that. I don't even remember what she called it. So I went to see it. It was at the Red Door Bar. Was it Red Door? Yep. Mm-hmm.
I think it was something like that.
Yep. So I go in there. There's not a whole lot of people there. And now I know who I was talking to. Back then, I had no clue. I went in there. I was eating this little charcuterie board thing, having my non-alcoholic drink. It was great. I had a wonderful time. But that's where I met Kim. That's where I met, hang on. Help me, her cohort, help.
There's Kim, there's Andy Gish, and there is Diane Cole.
I just went totally blank. And I actually met Kim's husband. I just didn't know it was him at the time. But yes. So, Lord, I met Kim that night. And this is before kimono ever even exists. Okay. Like 6 months later, because we were like Facebook friends and all that thing you do when you meet somebody. She's like, hey, I think I'm going to start this thing, and I think you might be good for it. And I was like, cool. And I did it a couple of times, and not really a performer. She was really sweet and gracious toward me. But I met a lot of people through that. And I think that's how, somehow or another, through either some subsidiary of that or some offshoot of that, how I met you.
We run in the same circles. Like,
yeah, my circles are very weird. I have a lot of circles.
Hey, it works.
It does.
I'm glad that we have crossed paths.
Yes,
however we managed to cross paths. However we got to that point that's great.
There you go. But the point of all that is to say there's people who are similar to you everywhere. You just have to. And I think us as the creatives, a lot of times we can be very socially insecure,
Yeah.
you know, or maybe have some social anxiety, or just get really nervous about putting ourselves out there and meeting people. And that is where the internet is beautiful, because if you do have a problem with that, you just do it online. And if you
Exactly.
freak out, you can reschedule. It's okay. Because chances are, whoever you were dealing with probably has a very similar type personality. So
Yeah.
that's one of the beautiful things about the internet is for creatives. It's great, especially when there's that social component there that can be a little awkward sometimes. So
Yeah, most definitely. I mean, I never thought that I would be hosting a show on the
right,
internet. Like my
right.
first episode of The Warrior Within was not that great. Like I was a nervous person
Yes.
and I stuttered and I didn't do real great at it, but here we are.
And how many shows have you done now?
I have done probably 3 years worth of shows,
Which would be about,
and I probably like 13 episodes in each season. I don't know. I've done so many shows, and I have like, other shows besides The Warrior Within. I have music shows, I have
right,
ghost story shows,
right,
I have
right,
like, because I'm not just interested in one thing. I like
of
doing
course,
several different
right.
things.
And Jamie, that's the point. Here you are at a minimum, probably 50 shows in, maybe a little more, and how much
Yeah.
more comfortable you are now, even though you disclose, you still get nervous, which is totally normal. You know,
Yeah.
I speak in front of a group every single day just because of my job. I have
Yeah.
to groups every day, but there's not a time when I'm not about to get on stage that I'm like, oh God, what in the world am I doing? And I've done it so much. It should be second
Yeah.
nature, but there's still that I can go out the back door.
Yeah, exactly. Like
But
I always use that terminology, like that phrase. One of my friends in college, she had this beautiful phrase about dancing. She's like, a lot of people are worried that they're gonna look like an idiot out on the dance floor. And she's like, you know what I say to that? Walk to the edge of stupid and jump right on in. And I was like, I
talking
love that. I love
about
that so much. she's
exactly.
I
One of
thought
the
that was
things
great.
that is great. One of the things that we do that is a disservice to ourselves is that we think that everyone is watching us under a magnifying glass.
Exactly.
And when we can take a step back and realize the grace that we show other people, okay, because we do. We show a lot of grace to other people. Oh, it was their first time. She was nervous.
Yeah.
Most people extend that as well. And if they
Yeah.
don't, screw them, because they would have been a jerk regardless if you would have been perfect. A jerk
Yeah.
is going to be a jerk regardless. But most people, number one, don't think of us near like what we think that they do. They're not sitting around just saying, well, I wonder if Jamie's going to mess up today. Let me see. That's not
Exactly.
the world actually works. People are consumed by their own lives. Most people are inspired. They're like, man, that takes some guts to do that. I'm so proud of
Yeah.
you. That's awesome. You've motivated me
Yeah.
to do something,
Yeah.
and me, that is what putting yourself out there does. It gives someone else that little boost that maybe they need, you know. So what you're doing, Jamie, like right now, I'm motivated. I want to go start. I'm going to go start a web series now. No, I'm joking. I
Go
have
for
500.
it.
Listen, I have
I'll
500.
watch.
I have 500 million things on my agenda. One thing I didn't even acknowledge earlier is I'm in graduate school working on my second master's. So I'm graduating in
Great.
August with my second master's. 20 years after
Congratulations.
I know, 20 years after being in graduate school the first time. So I am crazy as I'll get out. Okay.
You have to have nerves of steel to like go into graduate school, I think. Cause like, my friend got just a master's. Well, I say just a master's. That's an
Right.
amazing feat. Like he got a master's in library science. And I'm like,
That's
I was like, more power to you.
Look, library science is a hard curriculum. It really
Oh
is.
yeah.
Hats off to anyone who does that. But yeah, I don't know if I'm brave or a sadist, maybe a little of both. But yeah, no, I'm doing that because people are like, well, Carmen, why did you go back? Because it's a long toward tale about licensure. This will enable
Yeah.
me to become independently licensed. So if I choose to go into a private practice, I can, but that is, that's just giving me some more options as I get older because I don't know how long I'm going to be able to chase those teenagers. So right now we're good, but we're just preparing for down the road in case something's not good or, heck, why not just have a law degree to go on top of it too,
Right there is proof that like it doesn't matter what age you are in life, like you can still accomplish your goals. Like my dream, this is my dream. My dream is to own my own like recording studio / concert hall. Like I
Right.
want to have the ability for people to perform and to record on site. And then also to go along with that, I want to have people's paintings and creativity hanging on the walls so that I can display artists as well. I want it to be a place of creativity, and I'm trying to inch my way toward that goal. I'm going to start doing the research for,
Exactly.
getting grants and stuff to do that.
And there is money out there. There is. So, goal setting and achieving dreams is one of the things that is one of my passions as far as educating other people about. So, you're doing everything very, very well. And
Oh,
a little bit of is something that I talk about a lot because people are like, how do you do everything? How do you do everything? This is nuts. How do you get all this done? Well, it's it's not by accident. It's very calculated. Where do you want to be in 5 years? Okay, write it down. Break it into year targets of what do I need to do. You can work backwards. Where would you be in 4 years, 3 years, 2 years, 1 year? Break that down. 6 months, okay, 3 months, 1 month, 1 week. What can you do today? What is something you can do today that is going to move you closer to your weekly goal, which will then move you closer to your monthly, yearly, et cetera, et cetera. Rome was not built in a day, okay?
exactly.
But if you have a plan and you break it down in legitimate steps, it will blow your mind of what you are able to accomplish. And I'm not just saying that to smoke up people's butts. If you will make a written plan, I guarantee you that your chances of succeeding are going to increase by like fivefold. They've done the research on writing it down versus just thinking about something. Verbalizing it helps, but writing it increases it greatly. So give it a shot. And Jamie, I have no doubt that you're going to have that studio and that performance hall, and you're going to have all your friends' art everywhere. And Philip and I are going to come and we're going to open up one night and do some comedy for you. So it's all going to be great.
That would be incredible. I would appreciate that. That would be awesome.
We'll
yes, I definitely want to accomplish that. Like, because I have a bachelor's degree in mass communications, emphasis in recording technology. So like it's taking everything that I love and putting it in one spot. And I just want people to have a place of creativity where they can talk to other creatives, they can relax, they can de-stress from their workday. I want a place like that. That would be incredible. That would be wonderful.
But you're already there almost just with what you're doing online.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
You're kind of
I'm wanting to make it. I'm wanting to make Star Raven Studios a reality, like in person format.
Absolutely.
That would be great.
Well, definitely
is there
night.
That would be great. I would love to have you there and like Diane Call, like all those awesome people.
I
That would be
love
great.
She is wonderful. She's also a clinician, so we have a lot in common.
Yes, Diane Call actually sponsored the Warrior Within. I think it was in 2022. She was my first sponsor for this show. So I am very grateful to her. Like, shout out to Diane Call because she's
Shout out.
an
Absolutely.
amazing human being. Is there any more of your life journey or anything that you would like to mention before we close this program out?
Well, I certainly appreciate you allowing me to just talk. I get paid to other people talk, so it's nice to be on the other side of the desk sometimes.
Definitely, and you are more than welcome to come back anytime. Like I've had people on my show 2-3 times, so wow. I really have enjoyed this. I appreciate it so much.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much, Jamie. And, God bless all the warriors and God bless the ones who advocate for the warriors. So thank you so much.
Well, thank you very much for being here. This is a pre-recorded episode. Oh, the secret's out, but we're just going to say that right now. So if you all ask questions while this is airing live, it's not actually live. It's pre-recorded. I'm sorry, but it is what it is. That way we can have several different parts in this series of amazing human beings such as Carmen, and I really appreciate her being here. You are still free to ask questions in the comments, and I will go back and look at them and answer your questions best I can. I will put all of Carmen's links in the description because I want to make sure that you all have access to Carmen's amazing stuff. Until next time, love, hugs, and blessings, and catch y'all on the flip side.